I find it quite distressing. Very quickly, the entire cinema industry has changed. It's almost like film has just ceased to exist, not only in reality, but it's ceased to exist in memory. It's like everything that came before digital just isn't important, and I think that's very, very wrong, because it is important. It's 100 years of importance. There were a few milestones in those 100 years of films. We got colour, sound. In the 50s and 60s we got stereophonic sound, and we got 70mm. And then later, of course, we got Dolby Stereo, and then digital audio. It's not a great many of changes over the years. I remember taking a gentleman up to a projection room, a multiplex projection room where I worked. He was probably in his 90s, and he had done projection way back in the 20s and 30s. Even after all that time, he could still recognise the equipment. The job it did was essentially the same, perhaps a little bit more sophisticated, but and we had xenon arcs, of course, as opposed to carbon arcs as he would have been used to, and we had platters and digital sound, but essentially the projection equipment was the same as he would have worked on all those years prior to that. And that was something that is very important, I think, about film. And that's something I think with digital I find very frustrating. It's like all the pre-history of film just doesn't matter anymore. And it's like all the projection equipment has just been, in a lot of cases, I mean it hasn't here, but in a lot of places it's just been thrown away. And it's like all that history is just pushed aside and as being unimportant. And I think that's wrong, because it is important, because digital didn't get here from nowhere. Digital cinema came because of everything that's happened in the cinema industry prior to this. And I think it's a shame and wrong to ignore that and forget that. I don't think that digital has quite the same magic as film. It's a lot more remote, for starters, whereas film is all hands-on. You're touching it, you're touching the equipment, you're threading the film, you're making the prints up. You touch them from the moment you actually have, they arrive in the building to the moment they actually leave. It was a much more physical thing. Film, you could see, you could touch, you could smell. I always remember getting a 70mm print, and you opened up the trunks and you got that wonderful waft of magnetic film came up and hit you, and you thought, oh yes, now I know what I'm really running film now. I'm glad that I've worked with film. I'm glad I've worked with 70mm. It was at the tail end. I mean, obviously the 60s and the early 70s were the real 70mm times where real 70mm shot on 65mm was around. So I came in on the tail end of that. So I've been able to run 35mm, I've been able to run 70mm, and now I'm sort of watching all of that fade into a very long, slow fade out, and watching a new era come along.